Green.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonja Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
And good morning. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Mac and Jack and Keith and Sonja show. I'm Sonja, joined by Jack and Keith. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you all?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Of course, Mac is with us from the Pearly Gates today, so we honor him with every show. And once again, you guys, Denver is still in there. I mean, last night's game, the NBA playoffs have not disappointed, at least not in that series. Did you guys catch that game?
A little bit of it. I didn't see the whole thing, but I like Game 7s. I thought Denver would win last night. There's nothing better in sports. Jack might disagree being a boxing aficionado, but I think there's nothing better in sports than Game 7s. And I think it's going to be fun. I worry about the Nuggets being spent a little bit with older bodies, more minutes. If you notice, OKC plays their bench a lot more, and I think they're gonna have fresher legs in Game 7. We'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, Jokic played a phenomenal game last night, and can he repeat it again? I mean, it wears on you after a while. I mean, when you're putting out 100% effort the way he's doing, and I'm not saying he carries the team because he does have a good supporting cast, but they'll go as far as Jokic takes him. If he has a so-so game at OKC, I don't think Denver wins. You wonder how much a sense of desperation there is with both teams. I mean, is OKC the type of team who, if they lose, they're going to say, well, we lost an experienced Denver team. We're getting better. We're a team of the future. But for the Nuggets, it's now or never. I mean, they lose this one and they look in their crystal ball. Things aren't going to get any better for them. But for OKC, the Thunder, they have their future ahead of them.
You're absolutely right there. And I talked about it before the playoffs, that OKC's lack of success in the playoffs might affect them. This is good experience for them either way, but for Denver, the window's closing with this group anyway. And you got new coaching, and we don't have a coach, actually. He's an interim coach, so we don't know what's going to happen front office or coaching wise. So Denver's whole franchise could look a lot different in a few months from now. So this is, as Jack says, probably more sense of urgency, I think, for Denver than OKC. Not saying OKC won't come out guns a-blazing, though. I think it's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow afternoon.
Definitely a lot of fun. And good morning to you, Brian B. Strella, checking in early this morning from work, I'm sure. Good morning to you. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, I mean, Keith makes a good point, y'all. Denver is going to be extremely tired. I mean, this has been a long series. This has been a competitive series. They often have scores of huge deficits that they've had to overcome and just to stay in the game and then win the game. And like he mentioned, OKC has done great coaching. They've been bringing their bench in, rotating their players in and out so that these veterans are not getting tired.
We saw my math the other night on the Wednesday night show, so I won't try to do a lot of math, but they got a significant amount of minutes. I want to say 60 or 70 minutes off the bench. Nobody's doing that in the playoffs except OKC, and it could have a big effect, not just in Game 7, but if they get past Game 7 as they go further into these playoffs. Younger legs and fresher legs could make a difference and maybe overcome that lack of experience that I've talked about.
And a lot of times, we talk about Game 7 being the ultimate game in sports, but when we have these best 4 out of 7 game series where the teams are relatively even, losing a game early in the series, it always comes back to haunt the team, and it's always the difference maker. This series, in reality, should have been over by now. OKC, in all probability, should have won this in 5 games, but they blew an early series game with questionable coaching, against Denver. Now here they are, in a Game 7 situation.
At home, wasn't it, Jack?
Yeah.
Well,
I have an important call to take 1 second, guys.
Oh gosh! Of course, Jack.
The accountant. Did you just cash that check, Sonja? His accountant's calling him. Checking
Oh my gosh, I did. I do. Jack writes checks, and so of course I wait on the mail to get them.
Writes checks,
and then I do mobile deposits. So I'm taking a picture.
I don't think I could write a check right now. To be
I
honest.
don't even remember how do you write them.
Oh God!
The crazy thing is, no one knew that this call was coming, and
That's funny.
Good old Jack. This is how we do it. Already pre off the rails, super early. Thanks, Jack. Oh, he's back.
Well, the viewers deserve an explanation. I have something with my eye, some reddish. It's a situation where, ironically, I don't know whether you can notice it, but if you can't, I guess everyone's going to be looking at me so careful. So I'm going into the ophthalmologist. I'm lucky they could take me on short notice.
Oh, good.
Just take a look. Chances are it's nothing at all, and I wouldn't have noticed it on my own. But
once again,
my daughter noticed it. So when they call you up, it was a call I had to pick up and take. Believe it or not, Sonja and Keith, some things are more important than sports. I mean, Mac would always think sports was the most important thing going on in the world.
Well,
I'm a diversified individual.
I hope you're okay, Jack. And once again, I caught making fun of you, and then I feel bad about it afterwards.
I don't know what it was about. I catch a tiny bit of the show, and then I look at the comments, and no, that's okay. I don't have the type of thick skin Mac had, but I realize if you can dish it out, you have to be able to take it, as much as I hate to take it.
You're a good sport.
You're very good. And of course, Jack,
keep the insults coming. That's the only way all of us can improve.
It actually is funny because, you throw that, your sarcasm and the lack of care in some instances is hilarious. No. So we just, you're like, listen, I got to go. I'll be back.
But when I had to take this call a moment ago, what did I just miss?
Nothing but talking about you. Like, oh, wow, Jack's out.
Man, that's the best way to lose viewers, talking about me tonight.
Oh my God!
I don't get Keith Engel. Keith Engel's a Patriot fan, and he's a Knicks fan. He's not a Celtic fan, but the Celtics and the Patriots are located geography-wise in the same place. Why don't you come over, convert, Keith, become a Jet fan? Convert.
Very quickly, I can explain this. And actually, when everyone remember, Mac did all these interviews with all the show hosts and whatnot. I explained this whole thing. I'll do it very quickly. When I was a kid, everybody was a Jet fan or Giant fan. Jets had just won a World Series. Mets had just won a World Series. Giant fans, because their dads were. I was always a nonconformist, even when I was like 9 years old. I became a Patriot fan, but I became a Knicks fan and a Yankee fan because the Yankees weren't any good at the time. And I always argue this point when people say you're a Boston fan. Foxborough is 22 miles from Boston. I'm not a Boston fan.
That's still right there.
22 miles. Now, you don't live here. Albany, the capital of New York, is 22 miles from where I hang out grew up with a bunch of my friends in Amsterdam, New York. And I say to them all the time, is Albany Amsterdam? It's 22 miles away. They would argue vehemently it's not. So Boston.
Wow.
So Foxborough's not Boston.
Well, anyway. That's kind of like how in Atlanta, like anything 20 miles is still considered the Atlanta suburb for like news purposes, things like that. But people that are in Atlanta, like myself, I don't say it because I'm not from here, but real Atlantans that are from here, they'll be like, that's not Atlanta.
Yeah. Well, there was also no New York teams when I was growing up in football. They were all moving to New Jersey, Jack, too. So.
And they're considered, even though the Jets and Giants play New Jersey, they're considered New York teams. That's the mentality. And I guess the people in New Jersey and New York, they don't have a rivalry. They don't have a rivalry going on. I mean, the ironic part about it is Buffalo is in New York State, but people who live in New York City have no attachment to upstate teams at all, at all. They couldn't care less. The Buffalo Bills may as well be the Pittsburgh Steelers to them. It doesn't matter that the Bills are from New York State. You'd think you would root for the Bills if they were getting in the Super Bowl and you lived in New York City, but you couldn't care less.
Jack, that's because people who live in New York City think that Westchester County's upstate New York, and it's not, by the way. So they get.
Yeah, I thought that, and I'm not even from there.
Yeah. So.
Oh my gosh, you guys are hilarious.
We're losing everybody that's not in New York right now, Jack.
I'm glad you asked him that, Jack, because I totally forgot. I knew Mac did these interviews, but I didn't get to that part of your interview.
I probably told you that at one point when I was first on your show. I'll bet you, Sonja.
Yes, I probably.
People in Connecticut, I would have asked Mac. It's kind of smack in the middle between. It feels that way between Boston and New York. It feels that way.
Yeah.
Most people in Connecticut, are they Celtic fans or Knicks fans?
I think it's probably split. I'll bet you 50-50-ish. I don't have any, hard evidence for that, but I would guess it'd be 50-50. Probably more Giant fans when you go to football. Maybe today it might be more split, but back in the day, it was all Giant fans.
I got to tell you, certain variables in sports, they came out. I saw a statistic today in the NFL for the first time. Travel miles. I don't know whether you saw it or not. The Cincinnati Bengals are traveling the least amount of any NFL team, and they have it in order, who's traveling the most miles. And I remember when Jim Jeffcoat was on our show, that was a big issue to him, former player. How much you travel has a lot to do with winning and losing. If that's the case, I mean, the LA Chargers have the most miles they have to travel, and people are looking for good things out of them this year. And so do we not give them as much credit in our predicting, how much they're going to win or lose? And if the Bengals have the least amount of travel, do we, give them an edge to maybe, win the Super Bowl finally this year?
Overall, I've never done that, but individual games, I always look at that. Like teams coming from the West to play in the East is always a problematic for them with the time zone differences. And they might be playing a 1:00 game. But I hope they're not factoring the international games into those travel miles, because obviously those teams would be way.
And I don't know what you both think of the schedule, but I kind of liked it. I looked at the Jets schedule. They have on the Panthers and the Saints on the Jets schedule, and I'm going to love it when the Jets put a beat down on both teams. I'm going to love coming on this show and giving it to Sonja and James.
Yeah, I was waiting because, I wanted to talk about the Celtics real quick. But thanks for propelling us to football, Jack. We're gonna definitely come back to those schedules if we can squeeze it in. But
like a Wednesday.
I love how you're so hopeful. Yeah, we need you on Wednesday. Good morning, Miss Linda. She said, try being from Connecticut. We have nothing. It's actually a split between each. Oh yeah, that is definitely.
No, you got college basketball, which Connecticut has been
but they're
outstanding.
Professional. They want, bless their heart.
The Patriots nearly moved to Hartford back in the 1990s.
That may have been a bluff by Robert Kraft. I don't know how serious he really was.
That was before. Well, even before him, they were talking about moving to Hartford and Rhode Island, Providence, Rhode Island, St. Louis. They were going all over the place in the 90s before Kraft was even in the picture. But he did use it as leverage for a stadium for sure.
Those are all before my time. Let me ask you guys a question real quick before we move on. So one of the teams that was eliminated, of course, was Golden State Warriors. It's been no secret about the controversy around Draymond Green. However, it came out that he was fined $50,000 by the NBA for inappropriate comments made to officials during a playoff series against Minnesota. It was his 5th technical postseason foul and a league's high. Were you guys first of all, we've seen how he plays against other players. Every hit is an attack, basically, some type of assault mixed in. What were your guys' thoughts about this? Did you know about this fine?
I'm not shocked. And yes, I did hear about it. I knew it was building up as the playoffs went on. But, Draymond has got this. I don't know if I want to call it an act, because I think it's who he really is. He's a great player who's helped them a lot this year. And I thought he was on the downside of his career. And I thought he had a pretty good year this year, especially after they had some injuries. And, he helped keep that team afloat. But his personality is not one that I favor. I mean, we've had guys like him in the past. Knicks had Oakley. The Pistons had a lot of Lambeer and Mahorn, and go back in the day. There's been bad boys, but the league doesn't have a lot of those characters anymore. I'm trying to think of one besides him, and Jack, maybe you can, but he's the face of the bad boy in the league.
I think when Draymond Green runs into problems, he usually retaliates very quickly. It's a split second. He doesn't think things out. I mean, you could make comparisons to him and Dennis Rodman, but they seem to be more calculating. Lambeer knew how he wanted to intimidate someone, and the knock against Lambeer was he was really trying to hurt another player, because his logic was, if I can injure Larry Bird, he's out of the series. Our chances of winning are much better. And that's crossing a line. That's why Larry Bird hated Bill Lambeer's guts, with justification, I should add. Right. And Dennis Rodman, powerful guy, would take these cheap shots. Draymond Green, I'm not sure what you call it, cheap shots. He retaliates the wrong way, unfortunately. Things get a little rough on the inside. So it's an impulse move he makes. And he's not going to change. I mean, he keeps thinking, get him in therapy, get him in this, get him in that. He's not going to change. I mean, he's what he is on the court. He does things on impulse.
I think they've had him in therapy, actually. But do you think some of this comes, and I've had this thought from time to time, that part of it comes from he's not terribly happy. He's always been the third wheel there, always. And I wonder if that is part of what plays into his psyche a little bit. I'm not a psychiatrist, obviously, but.
Well, you called him a great player before. Keith, you called him a great player before. I think you didn't mean it, I guess.
No, I mean it like in a team sense, right? He contributes good to great things on those championship teams. He did.
He was he's been a great player on the Warriors, but you put Draymond Green on another team, he's not what you would call an impact player. Steph Curry is a impact player, any team in the history, the game. Klay Thompson was, you could say, was close to being a major impact player. But Draymond Green is a great fill-in supporting player, outstanding in that sense. And, he should finish his career with the Warriors. I hope Draymond Green doesn't play the last year or two somewhere else, like some of the other great players, like Peyton Malone. He belongs a Warrior his whole career.
Yeah, and I didn't mean great in the sense of, the greats of the game. I mean, he fits that team. And I don't know if he would have fit some other team. He had the right coach. He had the right players around him. And I would argue Klay Thompson for a couple of seasons was a tremendous impact player. Maybe not over time like Steph, but for a couple of seasons, he was as good as anybody.
I have not liked Draymond since he had the whole Jordan Poole incident. And I didn't like how the Warriors handled that in the end, Jordan Poole is sent elsewhere and eventually Klay Thompson. But Draymond, basically the junkyard dog of the neighborhood, is still on his team. I mean, that lets you know there it's not about, personalities. It's about the stats. What numbers can they bring? And I really am impressed, however, to see that there has not been a clash, at least not yet, with Jimmy Butler and him.
That's an interesting.
Butler has prided himself on being a leader wherever he's been. He was a leader, at Minnesota, Chicago, Miami. He's never going to be the leader of that team because Steph Curry's there. He's always going to be the vice president at most. Okay? So I think that keeps things in line more or less, because Steph is the guy. If Steph wasn't on the team, Jimmy Butler might kind of want this leadership role. And it makes you kind of wonder, the mentality. For example, Cooper Flagg is probably getting drafted by Dallas unless they shot the heck out of us and trade him. Kyrie Irving prides himself on being a leader, but he couldn't be a leader when LeBron James was, when he was with him at Cleveland. He couldn't be a leader with Luka when Luka was with Dallas. But now Kyrie is going to try to kind of, be the leader, be the guy, not necessarily in a selfish way, but Cooper Flagg would have to be kind of under his wing. And you wonder, does that make Kyrie more the guy he was at Brooklyn, with the antics, as opposed to what he's been at Dallas so far, a really good citizen who's been a tremendous help to the team.
It's interesting. It's an interesting dynamic. Basketball needs those. Everybody's got a mesh, right? And Golden State a couple of different times now. They've had 2 or 3 different iterations of that contending and championship roster. And Steve Kerr's been a very, I think, underrated piece of that. He's had great players. Don't get me wrong, but I think he's been very underrated in the fact of keeping all these egos and personalities either away from each other or meshing one or the other.
No, I give Steph Curry the credit because Steph Curry is the ultimate team guy who could put his ego on the shelf. When Kevin Durant was with Golden State a couple of years, we were thinking Kevin Durant's the better player between the two. He's the best player on Golden State. But now we're seeing, after Kevin Durant left and before Kevin Durant got there, between the two of them, Steph Curry's the better player. If you could have both guys at the age of 21 going forward, and you had a choice, Kevin Durant or Steph Curry over their whole career, I think most people take Steph Curry. I certainly would. No disrespect to Durant.
Had no issues, though. That's the point.
It's about winning, too, and Steph's a winner. And I think myself, Kevin Durant can do more things on the court than Steph Curry can do, but he doesn't win and he doesn't mesh with other players the way that Steph can make himself mesh with different guys. Similar to what I just said, they've had a lot of different guys come into that team over the time Steph's been there, and he's meshed and played his game and made them better too at the same time. So they're both great players, but Steph's the winner, and Durant didn't win until he got to play with Steph. So
I think I cut Sonja off before when she wanted to talk correctly about the Celtic-Knicks series.
Are the Celtics and Knicks playing?
Oh my gosh. That was supposed to be correct because that's actually news. I'm so sorry. Let's talk about it for a brief moment, Jack. My apologies for me doing anything that would interrupt, No,
I interrupted you. You wanted to talk about tonight's game, the Celtics. That's big news, and I'm talking about whatever.
No, it's okay. We're going to go back
about travel schedule in the NFL. That's nearly as bad as Mac talking about Title IX to me when big news was on the horizon.
I mean, yeah, but that's what it is. The show is that way. We talk about life stuff. Life is also sports as well. Speaking of, I'm really going to be honest with you guys. I'm shocked that the Celtics are still in this thing. Now, they have this game tonight. I don't know if they're going to be in it after tonight, but the Celtics have actually outscored the Knicks, you guys, by 33 points during this series. Why in the world are they trailing if they've outscored them? Boston had constructed massive leads in each game, at least to start out. Then all of a sudden, later on, here we come, round 1, then round 2, round 3, and so on. Then the Knicks ousted the Detroit Pistons in the beginning, but their starters won by 144 minutes together by only 3 points total against an upstart team. The first unit was designed to try to keep them back, but in some ways, this just feels like the same odd focus point considering the Knicks' position. New York is 1 win away, guys, from the conference finals, and it's basically leading the defending champs. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I thought this was a sure win for Boston, but it just has not been. Look at Jalen Brunson. Now you got Jason Tatum on the opposite side is out, having surgery next week on his Achilles. What is going on, guys? I'm like, what do you guys see happening here?
As far as a point differential, it's pretty simple. The Celtics offense leads to that. If they make 3-pointers, they win, and they win big. And if they don't, they lose. And their offense never changes. at all. I think. Listen, I said game 4 was a must-win for the Knicks. They came back and won that game in very surprising fashion, as they have all the games they won in this series. Really, I think tonight's a must-win too, because the Knicks have not had great history in Boston in Game 7, as most teams haven't. Boston's got a tremendous history of Game 7s and at home. Most of it in the Garden, to be fair. But the Knicks, look at you can't have all 4 of your starters having off games the way they did the other night. Butler, Brunson didn't play well. Thomas didn't play well. Obi didn't play well. Nobody played well on the starters. Nobody, and you got nobody on the bench really to come in and pick up the slack like some of these other teams do. Celtics come out, they're going to shoot 53 pointers. We know that because they've been right around 50 every single game. If they make 25, they're going to have a chance to win tonight. If they don't, the Knicks will win.
I think the Knicks can absolutely win a Game 7 in Boston if it gets to that point. I really do. If the Knicks win this series, people are going to forget, and they're going to say, well, the reason the Knicks won because Jason Tatum was out. Otherwise, the Celtics would have won the series. But keep this in mind: the Knicks were up 2-1, and they had a 7-point lead on the Celtics with 3:06 to go in the final period when Jason Tatum went down with the injury. So the odds are the Knicks would have won Game 4, at least had a 50-50 chance of winning Game 4. We don't know for sure what would have unfolded the rest of the way. The Celtic defense, they were so smothering last game. I think that was the key to winning the game. And can you put up that type of effort 3 games in a row? Can you come back again? Like, it's as if the Celtics threw everything they had in Game 5 into a final sprint. Can they come back mentally? Mentally, they were up for Game 5 to no end.
Yeah. This is what I said this Wednesday night, that I thought adrenaline, wanting to pick up their fallen leader would go a long ways for the Celtics. But I did not think they could put that type of effort, as you just said, Jack, forward for 3 straight games. I don't think they can do it. But I don't think the Knicks can't win in Boston because they played well on the road in these playoffs, especially. But I think it would behoove them, I should say, to win tonight.
I mean, it's not just
Jaylen Brown. I just want to say what Jaylen Brown did diving in the air for the ball going out of bounds. That's just one play. So that play itself could be overrated, but it was symbolic. He sent a message to the fans and to the rest of the team. We have to put out 100%. I'm putting my body on the line. And he's sending out a message. This means so much to me. I'm buying in 100%. But I think a key is Porzingis for Boston. He's been totally ineffective for the most part because of his virus. And I don't think that's suddenly going to get better. But imagine Porzingis all of a sudden got healthy. Now the Knicks could be in some serious trouble if they're not in it already.
Yeah, because they were with Tatum and Porzingis struggling. That's a different story than playing without Tatum, and you don't have Porzingis to help fill that gap. So
you literally
if he miraculously gets better at these next 2 games, then he would have a huge impact for sure.
I will say this. This is something Keith brought up earlier with our other series. The Celtics won the first 8.5 minutes of Wednesday's third quarter. 28-15 was that score, that difference, before Tom Thibodeau even made his first substitution, you guys. He's been banking on these veterans the whole time. I'm talking about the starters. Even after Miles McBride hit shots and Mitchell Robinson made the Celtics basically, subdue under him, he was quoted as saying he was just searching when multiple outlets have asked him about why he is just rolling with these starters on the court. Like, he's not using the bench at all. He's basically throwing everything against the wall. Like you guys said, it's not about just the adrenaline. It's about they're doing everything because they are down 2 key players. And so now you are literally throwing all of everything. These guys are going to be exhausted.
Well, the knock against Thibodeau through his whole career is that he's rode his starters too hard, even during the regular season, whether it was Minnesota, Chicago, now the Knicks. But this year and right now in these playoffs, it's almost out of necessity because there really isn't a lot of talent on that bench and guys that will contribute. Payne has a couple times, McBride has a couple times, but there's no consistency off that bench like a couple of these other teams. Even the Celtics get some pretty good production off their bench and play them a bunch of minutes. But I think this year I'm going to give Tibbs a pass because there's really nowhere to go off that bench.
Well, I think he might be using Mitchell Robinson a little more. And what's forgotten in last game, Mitch Robinson hit his foul shots.
He did.
The knock against him, he's been a liability on the court. You send him to the foul line, he's very mediocre. And he was a big presence, clogging up the middle, grabbing rebounds. And you combine him with Karl Anthony Towns, it gives the Knicks a certain, versatility. But you're right about the bench. But look at Mikal Bridges. He looks like he could play all night. I mean, the energy level that this guy has, the joy of the game.
Yeah. He was, he's a guy who seems to play better when the Knicks are playing better. When they're not playing well like they did the other night, he looks terrible. He looked terrible that night. But when that team is rolling, and I think more playing a role that he's meant for and not trying to do too much, I think he's a really valuable player in this Knicks lineup. He wasn't very good the other night, but I'm not going to look at nobody was very good. Robinson might have been the best player. He had 13 rebounds off the bench.
I mean, even with Brunson facing foul trouble, I mean, most of the time, most other coaches would have, taken him out. This didn't happen. But the end result is this, guys. This series is going to come down to who has the most energy left because the Knicks gave Boston way too much. Bridges' jumper went cold. He's played 216 minutes in this series and has not even gone to the free throw line.
Well, even if you look past this series, right? The Pacers have been some kryptonite to the Knicks through the years. Let's just assume for a second the Knicks find a way to win the series. The Pacers have given them fits.
Whoa. What do you mean somehow find a way to win? The Knicks have 3-2. They're going back to the Garden. What do you mean somehow find a way to win it? The Knicks are favored at this moment.
I'm only saying so I don't assume they're going to win. That's the only reason I say that.
No, you can't assume that. But I'm just
What?
saying.
Jack disappeared off coffee.
Steve Engel is the voice of doom. He thinks the Knicks have to get it done tonight. Because if they don't, he thinks the Knicks are cooked. I'll say they can go into Boston and win a game 7 if they have to. I know Keith is the ultimate home court advantage guy.
I'm not, but I am a home court advantage guy. I'm not the ultimate. But so just to offset your comment about me being a voice of doom, which I can be.
Wow.
I look at it being more realistic than looking at doom. I do think the Knicks will win. I 100% think the Knicks will win tonight. When you were talking about when Tatum went out with 3 minutes left the other night, the Knicks weren't losing that game. I'll tell you, I'm not even going to say they had at least a 50-50 chance. They were winning that game. It didn't matter whether Tatum stayed in or not. Momentum was in their favor. They were going to win. The Knicks will win tonight. I'm only saying when they get past here, because of the minutes and that topic we were talking about, and as I said with Denver, it's going to make a difference later on too, not just in this series. So if they get by here, that bench play or lack thereof in consistent minutes is going to hurt them against the Pacers, who are a very good team, by the way. Every year it seems like, where did the Pacers come from? Rick Carlisle.
Right.
I talk coaches. Rick Carlisle is an underrated coach.
Now, let me ask you this, Keith and Sonja as well. If the Knicks should blow this series and lose to Boston,
I'm the ultimate voice
how
of doom.
can they? No. Can they stand pat in the offseason, or do they have to make a drastic move? Because if you can't beat a Boston team minus Tatum when you're up 3-1, there's not much hope of doing any better next year. And the Knicks obviously aren't going to trade Brunson under any circumstance. His dad's an assistant coach. They're not going to mess with Brunson and trade him. But the Knicks would have the chips to go after Giannis. Do they trade Towns, Bridges, a couple of number ones? Do they make a drastic move if the Knicks are to blow this series?
It's possible. I know they've been enamored with Giannis for years, and now he's got some, miles on him. So we'll see whether that happens. I've liked Towns. He's a little too inconsistent for me, especially at this time of year. He's got to be more consistent. If they make a move, I'd like to see them do some moves. I love Hart. I like Hart better off the bench. This is one of the reasons the bench is so much weaker. You don't have Hart. You don't have DiVincenzo coming off the bench like they had last year. They need to strengthen that part of the game, and that could also be making a big move in the starting lineup, and Bridges and Hart or somebody like that is now, or both of those guys get moved to the bench. Doesn't mean they won't play significant minutes. They will. I'm not sure. There's only so many opportunities. Giannis would be the guy to watch, I think.
I'm telling you who I think the guy to watch is if the Knicks, let's say they lose to Indiana or whatever, if they were going to make a bold move, you know what I would look out for, believe it or not? It looks far-fetched now. Jimmy Butler was one of Tibbs's favorites, and I don't feel Golden State is obligated to him. They don't want to move Jimmy Butler. It would hurt them to move him, but Golden State needs some infusion, some type of deal to get back in the mix in the West.
I think they were just a safe haven for Jimmy Butler at the time. I don't see him being long term either. I mean, he's not doing. He fell on his tailbone a couple of days ago or whatever. He's just been not.
He's a favorite of Tibbs, though. The Knicks coach. That's the thing about it.
Didn't he sign a new contract after the trade?
Good morning, David.
I thought he did. I could be wrong.
I think, something like 113 million for 2 years or something. I'm not sure whether he signed it or whether he said he was planning to, what the deal was. But it would be a trade. I don't know what the Knicks would give, but it would be interesting. Interesting. But the Knicks have to take the next step. At the very least, they got to go to the finals now. They got to close out the Celtics. Losing to the Pacers again would be unacceptable.
I agree.
If they get to the finals and they lose to, let's say, Denver, you could live with that.
It's funny.
That winning tonight. Sorry, Keith.
That's okay. The Knicks easy. Knicks easy.
Oh man,
not easy, but they win.
At the God, I think the Celtics threw all their energy into that game 5. It'd be hard to duplicate that effort.
I was going to say it's interesting how expectations change, because when the playoffs started, if they got to the Eastern Conference Finals, we'd all have been elated. But now the opportunity has changed, right? And they get by the Celtics. They face the Pacers, who they lost to last year, correct? Or maybe in the last 2 years. I'm not sure. Was it the last 2 years?
Yeah, well, last year they lost them in 7. They had a 3-2 series lead and didn't get it done.
It will be a disappointment. Right now, it would be a disappointment if this team didn't get to the finals, in my mind. So,
the way they've played, I'm going to say with the Knicks and the way Thibodeau has been coaching, if they get past the Celtics, now the way it looks, I don't know if they're going to have the fortitude to finish this playoffs off and actually win it all. I wanted them to win it all for the East, but they may be exhausted, guys, by the time they get there, because Thibodeau won't pull the vets.
If they play the Nuggets in the finals, it might be who can keep the most guys from passing out from exhaustion.
Yes. And no one's talking about Thibodeau's job security. If they lose these next 2 games to the Celtics, we're going to hear some rumblings, but that normally doesn't work. Look at all the teams that move on from coaches. I think 4 of the last 6 NBA championship coaches soon found themselves with other teams.
Yeah. I saw a stat a long time ago, or not that long ago, where, the turnover has been, I think it was when Malone got let go. The turnover has been crazy in the NBA. It's worse than any other league. And the Knicks need all Jimmy Dolan needs to do is look back and see where the Knicks were when Thibodeau got here to realize he's done a very, very good job.
Well, James Dolan has done a good job because he's been out of the news. People were really getting on him. He's backed off, and there's absolutely no reason to get on James Dolan, for anything.
Well, if he fires Thibodeau, I do, but that's
well, I wouldn't be for firing Thibodeau, but if they blow this series to the Celtics and Thibodeau makes questionable moves, But Thibodeau's just going to play his starters. It's not going to be strategic moves. It's a question of how much his starters can endure.
Agreed.
And good morning to you, Brent. Of course, everybody. Good morning to everyone joining us today. And good morning. Good morning. Good morning. All right, let's move on. So, I don't know, guys. I'm just mad. Once Jason Tatum went down, you guys know I have players. I don't have teams once my teams are eliminated. Let's two things I want to try to squeeze in. One, both of these are pretty big. They came out yesterday. The first one, of course, Jack and I talked on Wednesday about Pete Rose, his possibility now of being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Keith, you and I talked about it on Wednesday night with a big sports show as well. Now that this lifetime ban has basically, the wording has been used as it is. It's a lifetime. And these gentlemen.
Actually, the wording is permanent ban.
Permanent.
Permanent ban was the wording in his submission. Yes.
Well, now permanent means every
time, right?
Yeah, permanent is beyond. It's like infinite. So if they use that word, then now they're alleviating the word permanent. Then let's just put it that way. And they're trying to consider these. Well, Reds fans lost their, what? They went ahead. The next game they had a Pete Rose night. I mean, they've all but went ahead and gone ahead, I should say, and put Pete in the Hall of Famer. I mean, Reds fans are excited. I mean, there's going to be a controversy no matter which way you look at it. I was talking to Dr. Paul about it, and he's like, some people are for, some people are against it. But it's just not premature that these fans are already out there having a Pete Rose night at the game.
He's not in the Hall of Fame. I mean, people seem to think Pete Rose is now in the Hall of Fame. Well, no, he isn't. He's got to be voted in still by the classic era. What is that the name now?
Yeah, baseball commissioner. Yeah.
And there's 16 guys that'll be on there, and a lot of them will be Hall of Famers, and a lot of the Hall of Famers still have a problem with Pete, including guys that played with him like Johnny Bench. So, and I saw some interviews the last couple of days with Mike Schmidt, Bench, some other guys, and I said the other night, I think it's about 50-50, and he needs 12 votes of those 16 to get in. I don't think he gets in right away. I do think he belongs in the Hall of Fame. I've said this all along. Sonja didn't understand this, maybe the term I used. Put him in there and you tell his story, warts and all, right? It's on his plaque. Suspended for betting on baseball. Mm-hmm. And also had more hits than anybody alive.
With the asterisk.
Dude, put whatever you want. Just put his plaque and put it all on the plaque. Same way with a steroid guy.
Can you imagine Johnny Bench not voting for him? What Cincinnati would think, because Johnny Bench is obviously pretty much as big an icon in Cincinnati as Pete Rose is. But there'd be a lot of fallback on that, pushback, from the people in Cincinnati. But he might not get in. Like, Pete Rose wasn't the most liked guy. And if you're a voter, you could point to the criteria which might say something to the effect you have to act honorably, in a certain way. I think there's some reference to behavior is one of the criteria in voting, and Pete Rose's behavior has been appalling. But he was a pathological liar, disgusting guy the way he acted.
There's a lot of guys. There's a bunch of racists. Ty Cobb, there's no worse person in the Hall of Fame than Ty Cobb, and we didn't have a morals problem with him.
Well, let me ask you this, Keith. Is Pete Rose tied into Shoeless Joe Jackson? Can you see a scenario where Shoeless Joe gets voted in, but not Pete Rose?
Shoeless Joe Jackson's story is old enough that I don't know that it's going to resonate with people the way that it would have 30 or 40 years ago. He's a great player, but nobody knows what a great player he was because he got suspended at a very young age. I think Shoeless Joe Jackson should go to the Hall of Fame too. I don't even know how I've read the book. I've watched the movie. I still don't know how involved Joe Jackson was because Joe Jackson didn't know what was going on half the time. Couldn't read, couldn't write.
Oh, wow.
And he got
supposedly he knew, and even though he didn't participate, he didn't report it. But the suspicion, despite Joe Jackson having great stats in that thrown World Series, the Cincinnati Redlegs, the hits he got supposedly were in big situations. Mm-hmm. Maybe he made out in bigger situations. Yeah. So there was a little suspicion whether those stats were a little bit manipulated.
Well, the whole thing about a lot of the story, if I remember it right, it's been a while since I read the book. You might be able to correct me, Jack. A lot of this was the conspiracy was real, but then the players weren't getting paid by Rothstein. And then they said, screw them, we're going to go out and win. Well, you can't say we weren't trying to throw it because we tried to win it after we didn't get paid.
Yeah, that's exactly what that looked like. I don't know, but looks like. I just feel like this is one of those situations again, and Jack alluded to this. I kind of wanted to just be raised and like let go until, they convene in 2027, 2028 to see whether or not he gets in. But instead, this is the response of Reds fans has been exactly what Jack said. They're going to talk about this all the time until that time comes to let him in or not.
Sonja, there's some big baseball news going on in regard to fans.
Okay.
That with everything going on with the Knicks in the NBA playoffs, P. Rose's reinstatement, his eligibility now with the other players that slipped under the radar to a large degree. Juan Soto returns to Yankee Stadium tonight where the Mets are playing the Yankees.
Yes, the rivalry.
And the reaction of the Yankee fans, of course, that's news. We heard about it all off season. The booing Soto's going to get to this, to that. And, I mean, a guy like Keith Engels can boo Soto if he's in the Yankee Stadium crowd. I'm a little more reserved. I would actually give him a light applause, not a heavy applause. Look, you were a Yankee last year. You helped us get to the World Series. You moved on to the Mets. You're doing your thing. I'm not a fan of yours anymore, but thank you for the 1 year. Now get lost. Rather than get on them too harshly.
That's my thing. It's 1 year. You didn't complete if you won a World Series, I'd give you a little golf clap or something, but I'm not,
Yeah, but they're rivals. I had Dr. Paul on the other night start spreading the news. Of course, this is his team. And he was saying, some people may still applaud him. He was a name for that team, even though, they didn't win a World Series. I mean, you can't say Yankees without thinking about Juan Soto, La Tierra.
I can say Yankees without thinking about Juan Soto. I don't think about Juan Soto.
Did Doc actually say that, or was that you who said that?
No, he was on my show the other day. He was on my show.
There is some sour grapes on Sonja's part, Keith, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I see things, as they are, beneath the surface of her complaint. Max Fried, the Atlanta Braves, one of her favorites, Sonja's a Brave fan, signed with the New York Yankees. Now, this is a great argument, Keith. Okay, you match up Fried and Soto. And if Fried can perform the next 8 years on his contract on this Cy Young level, I can make an argument the Yankees are better off with Fried than Soto if I am matching a mano de mano.
I'd agree. They didn't lose last year because they didn't hit the ball. They lost because they didn't pitch well enough and field well enough. So, and Soto didn't help in either one of those situations. So
now he's not on the Braves anymore. Max Fried, Sonja, takes a dig at the Yankees now. And I know what the story is.
I can think about the Yankees without thinking about Juan Soto even a little bit. Yeah. I mean, there's 50 guys would come up in my head before Juan Soto.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for that, Jack. Let's move on, guys. We got some NFL news to talk about here. Of course, the schedule releases came out this week. Jack's going to already have his Kleenex box ready for the Panthers game, and I'm pretty sure they may beat the Saints. Sorry, J-Train, if you're listening, because the Saints are just not solid on their quarterback. However, go ahead, Keith.
It's all next year.
And I play you guys. Yes, I was getting ready to say. People have said that the Patriots may win. I don't know. We're not afraid. I'm just going to say
that game. I'm confident. I'm not that 100% confident in every other game, but
you're confident that what?
We'll beat the Panthers.
Oh my gosh! Let me make sure I download this clip from this game.
It's at home.
Yeah. We
can save the tape. I am more than happy to take a mea culpa when I lose. I'm okay with that.
Jack is our.
No, there's a next factor with the Patriots. that might concern me just a little bit. They're committed to Drake May, obviously, as their future.
Chapel Hill.
But Mike Vrabel had no patience whatsoever with Malik Willis and basically drove him out of Tennessee. And Malik Willis has shown he has some potential when he got in filling in for Jordan Love. If Mike Vrabel doesn't have the patience with Drake May and Drake May struggles a little, there could be potentially a problem there. I would keep my eye out for that.
Drake May already has played better than Malik Willis ever played, and he's got a lot of room for improvement. And his numbers weren't off the charts, but they weren't terrible last year on a terrible team. I'm confident. And again, I wasn't all in on drafting Drake May. Remember, I'm not saying I was, but I do think he'll be fine because the alternatives are Josh Dobbs, by the way. So
no, Drake May should be fine. But wasn't Will Levis with Vrabel at Tennessee for 1 year?
He was.
He was. And look, and Will Levis, it hasn't worked out. It didn't work out after Vrabel left as well. I kind of understand that. But it didn't help him Will Levis's development. It didn't help him Malik Willis's development at Tennessee. And these were second and third round draft choices. They came in with a certain amount of potential. But Vrabel is a good coach, and he does have the Patriot pedigree.
I would also mention those guys didn't have Josh McDaniel as their offensive coordinator and quarterback whisperer. So.
Okay, two things I got to talk to you guys about. One just happened, and I'm going to tell you guys about this in a second. Speaking of New England, what do you guys think about Caleb Williams' story coming out? It's going to be authored that he and his father basically tried to circumvent him being drafted to the Bears. Like, this is going to be authored, guys.
The timing is. I don't get the timing. Why are you talking about this 2 years later when the team is now on the upswing?
Yes.
By all appearances. Why are you talking about this now? It makes
no 1 year later. It was a rookie.
Yeah. 1 year. Fair enough. Yeah. But still, why are we talking about it now? I don't get it.
But there's nothing wrong with it. Caleb Williams should be honest. Yeah, what was in the book was accurate. I did not want to go to the Bears at the time, considering their history. And you want to know something? Caleb Williams had a good point. Look what was going on last year. They were dysfunctional.
But he was new. He had never played in the league. Why would you come in with that type of attitude? Like, this is what I'm talking about. The ungratefulness of these draftees. It really irritates me, Jack.
Well, look, Eli Manning manipulated his situation. John Elway manipulated his situation. And didn't it work out for both guys? I mean, if you can manipulate your situation, Jim Kelly didn't want to go to the Buffalo Bills. That's well documented. He admits it. I don't think Bear fans could give a darn now, that he didn't want to go to them. He's with the Bears now. And if you ask him, is he happy at this moment? I would think he would be at this exact moment, having a new coach, a new system. It's going to work out. Caleb Williams, you're going to see, is going to have a really good year.
Well, then why? Okay, so this story came out, and this is poking the bear, and this is probably the opposite of what my stance normally is. Then why did everybody give Deion primetime such a hard time with the same situation kind of going down with Shador and him not wanting him to go where he's gone?
I mean, I don't like. Am I muted? No, I'm all right. I should be muted.
I heard something about some guacamole, so I had to mute it real quick. Sorry, Keith.
Yeah, I something started playing. A video started playing. I apologize. It's just out of nowhere. I think I have a poltergeist here.
That's funny.
I don't like quarterbacks trying to manipulate their way into better situations anyway, right? So my stance is probably pretty consistent here. I mean, Elway should have just sucked up for years. Teams were just players were just happy to get drafted. Now they're trying to manipulate their way into playing wherever they want. And I really wish Eli Manning had played his career in San Diego, quite frankly, because it might have been better off for me. I'd have had 2 more Super Bowl wins. So.
Yeah, true.
Right. I mean, there's certain places aren't appealing. I mean, it's just what it is. No offense. If your quarterback going to the Carolina Panthers, I think it's going to work out with Bryce Young now. But let's say the Panthers traded Bryce Young last year for a draft choice. We would have looked at the history of the Panthers quarterback situation. It wasn't good. Darnold goes to the Vikings, it works out. Baker Mayfield goes to the Buccaneers, it works out. It didn't work out at Carolina, and it wouldn't have worked out with Bryce Young, and chances are whether Bryce Young, it would have worked out elsewhere. But now, fortunately for the Panthers, I think it's going to work out there.
Brent said Chicago got a Pope before 4,000-yard quarterback. That's hilarious, Brent.
Who was the greatest quarterback in their, history from the Super Bowl era? Jim McMahon.
Yeah.
He wasn't a great quarterback.
No, not a classic quarterback for sure.
All right, we got like a couple of minutes, guys. I want to plug this in because this just happened. So Bill Belichick was supposed to sit down this morning with Good Morning America. And it just, as we were sitting here talking, this interview just took place in New York, Times Square to be in fact. And a certain person that he's had in tow the entire time was actually not there. Jordan Hudson, his girlfriend, quote, lover, took a PR guru today, and he actually took on with him a gentleman that was basically, let's see, it's going to be Michael Strahan, asked him about his relationship. And of course, he's like, of course, he's not talking about that. Of course, his girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, has been in the news, but they decided to send him with Brandon Faber, an employee of North Carolina, who they've hired to try to calm down this scrutiny around this PR nightmare that Belichick has created with his girlfriend and him. Faber was previously in Chicago working for the city's 3 sports teams, Bulls, Blackhawks, and Bears. And so, this is crazy now, guys. I mean, they're trying to do some damage control. They've been in the news, not like it's big news, but the fact that Belichick has had, his 49-year difference girlfriend with him on emails and everything is just, is this something that we're going to start to see take flight here as the season's going to kick off here shortly?
If they win, nobody will be talking about this at all. If they lose, it's going to become a big story. Or it'll stay a big story.
Keith, this hurts Belichick's chances of getting back in the NFL. I've always liked Belichick. If I was an owner, I don't hire Belichick now. I would have hired him before. I don't need this nonsense, this lack of, responsibility the way it looks.
I agree 100%. He's never going to coach the NFL now, and he left himself out. He left himself an out to get there. I mean, his buyout goes to $1 million on June 2nd. So.
Yep. That's what I was wondering, because I was like, when he first got the job, he'd been out for a little bit. People thought that this was his way back into the league. But again, personal choices have basically circumvented his professionalism.
There's been talk about him getting fired. He's not going to get fired. If he gets fired, they got to pay him $30 million to go away. Plus, they've invested $20 million in like staff and everything else around him.
Now this PR person that they've had to bring in to try to do damage control. But I blame them. This is what they allowed to happen. I blame UNC. You guys, if you put the hammer down in the beginning, like there's no significant others whatsoever, this is your job, X, Y, Z, in the story, we wouldn't be where we are now.
UNC, we wouldn't be talking about them at all if it wasn't for Belichick. So he has them in the news. As long as nothing scandalous goes on, he's an asset, to UNC in the sense that they're national news.
Yeah, the only bad publicity is no publicity, right? So
look at Colorado. What Deion Sanders has meant to them, it's been incredible. Who cared about Colorado before he got there?
Just real quickly, because I know we're going to have to wrap up, but I agree with Jackie. I don't know what Belichick himself is thinking, because he has ruined any chance, and nobody can tell me he doesn't want to go back to the NFL. I know he does, but he never will now.
It's the equivalent of me dating somebody that's being born today, the age difference, and I'm 50. It's literally like I'm going down to the hospital and get the newborn baby out of the hospital to date that baby. That's crazy, guys. It's been a good. What'd you say, Keith?
That's pretty weird, actually. No,
it is. I literally just thought of it like, oh my gosh. All right, guys. Of course, shows all day today. We appreciate all the likes, loves, and shares. Keith Engel will be on later. Of course, my show is on, and we got shows throughout. Jack, myself, and J Train will be on tomorrow with the sports debate show that we do every week. And of course, Sunday morning, we have the big sports show. We hope everyone has an amazing day. It's been great spending this morning with you guys. And Jack, Keith, and myself will see you when we see you.
See you.